I thought that was as close as I was getting to the Oscars right there. So being nominated is crazy.
Well, we wish you well on that, and we hope you win.
Oh, thank you, man.
Somebody told me that you auditioned for this role.
Yeah, no, everybody auditioned. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know about you, I actually like auditioning. I'm not always good at it, but I'm about a 50-50 auditioner. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. But as a process, before working, of course, when I started, you have to audition for everything. Then all of a sudden, you get to a certain level of movies and they just offer it to you. And then you turn up on set and you may have chatted, you may have had dinner with the director, but it's not until you work with someone do you really know them,
Right.
So we had a 3-hour audition. I made a little joke last night, but the truth of it is that I went for a singing lesson with my singing teacher for an hour before, just to warm up. And when I came out of the audition, the wheels off my bike had been stolen, right? And I had 15 minutes to get about 20 blocks in New York City. And I literally picked up the frame, which I couldn't fit into a cab. And I ran the entire way. And I turned up just sweating, panting, went up 3 flights of stairs at some New York sort of audition place. And I was like, hey, how are you? Here for Valjean. I know, I got all the gravitas, I'll get in a second, hang on a second. And I literally put the frame of my bike in the corner of the room and we got to work and it's the only audition I've ever asked to leave. 3 hours into it, I said, man, I've really got to put my kids to bed, I've got to go. So, but it was...
And they stole your bike?
Gone, well not the frame, I still got the frame.
You still got the frame?
Yeah, but the wheel's gone.
Wow. What about the physical preparation for this?
When Tom and I got together early on, I knew I had the part about 9 months before, which was great. The thing about the stage show, which I presume many of you have seen, there doesn't happen to be a Shula Hensley here tonight, does there? What?
We love him, but he's not here tonight.
No, Shula, anyway, Shula was the first person who's a mate of mine who I did Oklahoma with, and the first person I saw on stage was him playing Javert. And when you see Les Mis, there's that thing at the beginning, the whole prologue, which is 9 years of these characters' lives or more, entire time in jail, etc. Literally, Valjean runs off, whips off the fake beard, puts on a different coat, and then all of a sudden, Javert stands right next to him, having just seen him 2 minutes before, and we're all just buying that he doesn't recognise him, So he said, we have an opportunity in film to actually show, to really make that point of the time of how really difficult it was to be in jail back then. Because, you see, to different degrees of success, we believe in prison as a place of rehabilitation. Ultimately, there's a second chance and you can come out and resume your life. But back then, it wasn't considered that. Jail, the only purpose of jail was to turn you, and this is official, by the way, to turn you into an animal. So that when you came out with this parole, which was basically meant you could never work, really, other than a menial job, you would serve as a constant living reminder to everybody else as a deterrent of what not to do. So, Tom said, let's go for it. So I went on a really full-on diet, lost about 25, 30 pounds. But of course, he's known for his strength, so I had to kind of keep at the gym. And everyone thought I was crazy because...
because you go to the gym all the time anyway.
Yeah, but I'm not doing singing warm-ups while I'm bench pressing. Because one thing you don't want is to just tighten up your neck, training. So it was very rigorous. And then my trainer happened to have been a bodybuilder back in the day. And he said, man, if you really want to go for it, 36 hours without liquid, you'll lose 10 pounds of water weight. I said, what do you mean? He goes, that's what the bodybuilders do before a show, to get that very thin, because basically all this stuff, all of that is under the skin, is water, right? So in your face, your eyes, that extra sort of layer, whatever that is, 10 pounds in 36 hours. I said, let's do it before that first scene. About 20 hours into that, I really regretted it. The headache, the chest pains, do not try
Don't do this at home.
Oh, and actually when I did drink, and we were actually it was winter, Portsmouth with real ocean down right south of England, and I was almost drinking the seawater. I was that thirsty, and when I finally did drink, I thought I damaged something. It was like it was ripping myself open. Yeah, so because that is the only scene in the movie where we did not sing live, obviously because of the water tanks and the water. We couldn't have a microphone.
So all of the singing was live.
That's why I knew I could do the no water.
99% of the singing was live.
Everything apart from that scene.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so that was some of the stuff we did. But luckily, Jean Valjean gets to become successful, and so from that first week onwards, it was a lot of fun. I think I put 30 pounds back on. It was nice. Yeah.
How about the difference? Because we know you from doing, of course, all the television work, but all of the Broadway, live, musicals. You had your show last year. What's the difference between doing the musical for the screen and doing it every night?
Well, actually, one of the reasons I did my Broadway show was to get into shape vocally for the demands of the shoot, because we were singing live. There were certain unknowns. I didn't know what my voice would be like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know about you guys, but generally when I get tired, my voice is the first to go. So, we really had to, we would rehearse sometimes at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning to get used to it. And doing 20 songs a night, eight shows a week, is pretty much about what it was like in terms of knowing how to look after your voice and having the fitness, really vocally. It was pretty demanding, but what was the question again?
The difference between
the difference.
Broadway and doing that musical.
The other thing, when I did that audition for Tom, it was like a normal theatre audition, so he sat about 20 feet back, and I sang 4 or 5 songs, and I thought we'd be done. And then he just pulled up his chair like this. He goes, "All right, man." And I was his first person who auditioned, so he was really thinking about how to film it. He goes, "That was great. Now, let's just play through this one again. Don't worry about me. I'm just going to try to mention the close-up, so go for it." Getting to know you. Because, because... and one of the things we had to work on, weirdly, when we first saw, so we did some preliminary tests, and you realise things you do with your face when you sing that you have no idea that you do. And a lot of it's really ugly and stupid and ridiculous.
It has nothing to do with the character.
And when it's that big, and you're, all of that. So we had to then practice singing whilst keeping a relaxed face. So yeah, there was a lot of things we learned, but ultimately, and I know you believe this, of course there's a slightly different technique. Of course there's a slightly different emphasis on making sure in the theatre that the performance is as visceral and as real and as connected to the person in the last row as it is the first row. Really, acting is the same thing. It's an emotional truth, and whether you are playing it for 3,000 people, 1,500 people, or the camera, which is right here, it's essentially, I believe, you have to, the foundation has to be exactly the same, that emotional, internal truth, and then everything else takes care of itself.
I thought you were very successful.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
There are a few films up for Best Film. But the question I have is, universally, what do you think this film, how do you think it touches human beings worldwide? Because some films, they reach certain pockets of people. I find this film to be very human and very, universal. So,
well, let's start with Victor Hugo, because he wrote this incredible novel. If you have not read it, and by the way, I had not read it until I thought I better read this thing, before I turn up, is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. It is 1,500 pages, and I'm sure I would never have got to it if I wasn't, doing the part. But it is awesome. The story is as relevant today, not just on political terms or what he's trying to say about inequality or hardship, but really in terms of his portrait of human nature and the human condition. And to me, like the line at the very end of this, and that's straight from Victor Hugo, to love another person is to see the face of God. And that's universal. We all have different versions of what God or spirituality means to us, all around the world. But I think everyone can relate that in every message and every religion is the idea that that the spirituality really is in front of us. Spirituality is within, and it's right in front of us. And to open yourself up, to show grace, love, redemption, is really what spirituality is about. And that, I know, is universal, and that, I think, will be for all time.
That's great. One of the things I've always loved about you from the first time I met you, I felt that there's a thin line between the man and his artistry. And I was like, wow, I like this guy. I like this man. And when I saw you last night deliver that speech, and you talked about your family, and you talked about the sacrifices that they made for you to allow you to do what you do, I felt it. The same way I felt the end of this movie when you're delivering that. So speak about you and speak about,
It's really interesting you saw that, because I'll never forget, but this was the first time, I was just telling Kenny, this is the first time I have ever done a film away from my family. I've been lucky enough to always have them with me, and that was, we always had a rule, Deb and I, that we wouldn't spend longer than 2 weeks apart, which we didn't. I had more frequent fly miles on this job, I can tell you, than anything, but being alone, and I was living in a little cottage and alone because the nights were about resting your voice. It was really about shutting down and really just focusing on the work. Man, I left my wife with the kids, and it was really difficult. It was hard, and I never forget that last scene when we were shooting it, and I was sitting in the wheelchair waiting to shoot, and they were preparing, and the words of what I was saying, alone, I wait, I count the hours before I sleep. And I just thought, oh my gosh, here I am, other side of the world from my children, doing the thing I love. But what if at the end of all of that, you end up alone? Imagine what that would be like. It was sort of devastating. So it was probably no acting at all up there. I was... it's the fine line we all face as actors, because it's the thing we love. It is the most inconvenient job, really. In every way, it's inconvenient. Usually, it's full of excitement and full of unknowns. But it very rarely do you shoot just down the road from where you live.
Hear that, honey?
So it really is. There are sacrifices, and most of them, are usually made by our loved ones and our kids. And, last night I just wanted, I suppose, particularly Deb and my kids to know that I appreciate it.
That came through. And finally, we, in Atlanta, we want to say that we love your work. And I'm speaking for all of them. And you have a home anytime you come here.
Thank you.
But we're going to let you have the last word and tell us, when folks around the world see this film, what do you want them to walk away with?
A film with the title Les Miserables seems impossible that it can leave you so uplifted about life. It is cathartic. It does take you through a lot of emotions when you see it or when you read it. It's one of the most beautiful stories. I think at the end of the day, it's a story about hope and about redemption and about love and grace. And really, for me, playing Jean Valjean was a constant reminder of how much further I have to go as a man. And I think whenever I see this story, it really makes me reflect on what is most important in my life and refocusing my attentions to helping those around me whenever I can. So I hope that uplifting message, I hope that you guys receive that and that other people do around the world.
Great. Well, spread the word. And thank you, Hugh Jackman.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.